you spoke earlier, Kenneth, about Dine in LA, and my thoughts is like, what spawned that idea? Where did it birth from, and where do you see it going present?
Oh man. So talking about Dine in LA, I think it there were a few things that started it. So talking about like really wanting to have a space once again, going back to like you said, creating opportunities for yourself, right? So there were so many times where I wanted a space to be able to stay consistent. So when I started catering, we would have events here and there. They would be pretty sporadic, but I was constantly creating. So constantly at home buying stuff, especially in winter months when it's close to my birthday. That would be my time to like kind of splurge on those things. Um, but it was cooking for my family, things like that. It was really wanting to be able to do that, to have a creative outlet that I can use on a consistent basis. And also, it was going back to talking about relationship. You know, it was about being able to bring family and friends into my world as a chef. So it's like, okay, I'm constantly making these elaborate dishes, but you can't experience it because it's at somebody's house, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I can't invite you to somebody else's dinner and be like, hey, yo, Steven, come over here. We're going to be at this person's house. They're having a private party, but come and check out my food. So it was a way for me to be able to pull in friends and family into seeing what I actually do as an artist as opposed to just what I do cooking at the house or cooking for events. As you know, we would have Christmas parties and I would cook for that, but that's a whole different level than what I did for Dine in LA. So those consistent creative outlets was definitely one big thing. Being able to cook for people that I love was huge for me because I'm all about relationship, and if it's not about relationship, I really don't want anything to do with it. But also extending my reach. So definitely thinking about marketing and how to be able to create an outlet for myself as a chef to be able to create opportunities to expand and to grow and to be noticed by people that don't have they wouldn't have access to me. So once talking about niche markets like weddings and catered events and things like that, or even private dinner parties, is a very niche market. It's closed off. You only get married once.
Right.
You're only having one or two, maybe three baby showers. Like there's only so many things that you can do with that. There's only so many people that can afford a private chef. So like if I'm doing a private dinner party for a celebrity, yeah, they can afford to bring me in and pay $100 to $120 a person for me to create a 5-course dinner. Most people that I know are not able to do that. So once again, that was the niche market. Being able to expand that and say, okay, you don't have enough money to pay for 15 other people to come and have a 5-course dinner, but you have enough money to pay for yourself. Right. To come and have a 5-course dinner. So it was expanding that, like expanding my reach. I'll let Seppi come back into this in a second, but even going back to Seppi had asked me a question one time when we were in Colorado when he was newer to working with me, and he was like, is it okay if I can become great? Like, is it okay to desire to become great? And I'm like, I had this conversation, it's crazy, amazing story, but long story short, I was walking and meditating and talking to God, and he had already told me to tell Seppi, like, hey, it's okay if you want to be great. And so when I had that conversation in my alone time, I wasn't planning on telling him this at all because I thought he was going to be like, here comes Kenneth again, trying to be an encourager and trying to be a big brother and just talking, you know. But when we got back about an hour later, he was like, hey, Kenneth, is it okay if I become great? And so it blew my mind. So that being said, like, it encouraged me, it inspired me to be like, okay, not only am I trying to expand my reach, but I'm also now trying to become great. Like, I want to continue to pursue this craft to the greatest of my abilities and to be able to reach as many people as I can, to be able to expand my reach as far as I can, to become as excellent as I can as a chef. There's no longer just a desire to make money, right? So money is now secondary to, like, I want to be able to create the best food that these people have ever had. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to travel while I do this. I want to be able to have experiences while I'm doing this, you know? And so Dine in LA has created so many opportunities. It's given me more content where Seppi and I are able to get together and create and actually produce and have people pay for our creative outlets. Because before it would just be me here in the house spending my own money cooking for myself and my wife, and most of the times people would never try these dishes because I would have to make what they were asking me for, right? So that's expanded that. But once again, like talking about life balance, and so like this concept, even in Dine in LA and traveling with Dine in LA, like Seppi and I are constantly getting together and figuring out, okay, what's next? So it's like, all right, we've done Dine in LA. We've done Dine in LA where we started it in the house. And it was like, I have no venues. So what can I do? All right, Kira and I sat here, my wife and I sat here, and we're like, we have a basement. Let's use that, And so we started off with 12 people, and then that ended up going to 15 people, and then that was like, we can really fit 28 people down here. And then it went from 28 people to like 28 people for one night to 28 people for 2 nights, kind of thing. So it's been this constant evolving thing. And then it went from being in my house to being like, okay, now we're in the arts district, we're in downtown, we're in Venice, we're in Marina Del Rey. And so it's just this constant expanding. And so when Seppi came in, I've had many great chefs work with me in the past, and I love them and I appreciate them. When Seppi came in, for one, he came in as a little brother. And as you were just talking, Stephen, about like having somebody that's hungry and that shows that they see the value in it and they want it, right? And so to be able to talk to someone that is willing to jump and that's willing to leap, and so now we're working. He's worked with me for a year at Dine in LA, so we go back up to Colorado where we're gone and we have nothing but time to talk. And the question comes up like, what's next? And so it's like, dude, we get to come to Colorado, we get to cook, we get to do all these amazing things. Like we're cooking out of a trailer, a mobile home for 40 people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And so this is like something that we get to do on a consistent basis. We're doing on a monthly basis. But in the meantime, we're out exploring Colorado. Like we're hiking, we're going whitewater rafting, we're experiencing different restaurants, different culture. That's way different from California culture. Like Colorado and LA are night and day different, right? And so that put in our mind like, hey, cooking is more than just actually cooking and being cooped up in a kitchen. Like for one, we get to interact and meet with people, but we also get to see some cool things in the world. And so it's like, dude, well, if we've seen Colorado and we've seen Portland, we've seen Seattle, what else can we see? And so it's like, all right, let's go to San Diego. Let's do a dine in San Diego. I have some family that came out from Chicago. We're talking to them like, dude, we want to come to Chicago. We're now talking about going to Egypt. And so Seppi and I talked about Egypt. And then it's like, all right, let's pull Steven into the Egypt trip. Like, so just saying like, there's this ever evolving thought process of, as we discussed, like if there's a barrier to becoming a traveling chef, because, I've seen a lot of traveling chefs and I'm like, dude, how did they do that? Do they get picked up by a celebrity, whatever? And it's like, hey, nobody's picked me up to travel with them yet, but I could buy my own plane ticket. You know what I mean? Like I can make these experiences happen if I just have enough faith to believe if I move, God will move with me, right? And these experiences will manifest. What is your motivation like in the start, and what is in the start of you saying, hey, I actually want to do this as a chef, and then also like what is keeping you motivated in these times?
Gotcha. So I think when I first started out with Kenneth, job here and there, and then also working at BMW and stuff, I think it was just cool to be able to travel. So it was cool to learn how to make these different things. I remember learning how to hold a knife, and it's like I was supposed to hold it a certain way, but I'm like, I'm just gonna hold it the way I want to hold it, kind of thing. And then when I really started considering being a chef, I'm like, oh great, now I have to train myself to really hold this. So I'm gonna really start taking this a little bit seriously. So I think my motivation in the beginning was, this is a lot of fun, and I'm just gonna write it out and see how it goes. And so I think a year goes by, and I think so. my brother-in-law came up to me and knowing my brother-in-law Oscar, he's not the type of person he's not the type of guy that to go up and tell me, do whatever you want to do. He's like, no, you're married and you need to get a job to be able to support yourself. So back then, like 5 years ago, he was in the union. So he was a welder. So it's like, you should really consider going in the union. They provide really great benefits. You go to school, you get, a lot of good things happen out of that. But I'm like, no, like, that's boring. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to just do that just because this is what's the money and the benefits that will come out of it. So then shortly after that, he moved into another job that he was very passionate about. So I think that kind of changed his mindset about how, I viewed what I wanted to do. So he's seen me cooking and stuff like that, and he's like, hey, have you ever considered going to culinary school? So I'm like, I'm baffled, I'm surprised. I'm like, did you really just ask me that kind of thing? So that, and me, I'm very I'm a person that I value what people think about me and what people say about me. So coming from him, he's a big example in my life. So I'm like, wow, so you actually believe that I could actually do this. So that really was like, okay, like, if you like, that was like, you got my back kind of statement. So I'm like, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go through this and stuff, and pursue becoming a chef. And so I decided to go the route I decided to go the untraditional route. So traditional route, go to culinary school, you learn all these things. But I decided Kenneth's providing me an opportunity to be able to work with him, and he's a chef who's been doing this for about 12 years now, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm like, I was very comfortable and confident in learning under him. So through all of this, I was still working a part-time job with In-N-Out. I was still moving up at In-N-Out, and there was always a opportunity to possibly go into management. And so that was before wanting to pursuing becoming a chef. That was something that I was just pursuing at that time. So I was like learning. I was taking notes down when my managers would talk to me and stuff like that. And so my mind was set. That's what I'm going to do. And so I've been pursuing becoming a chef for about the past 4 years. But in the midst of all that, there's always been a thought like, this is hard. Especially like, it's like my mind has taken me down so many like ideas, like, what if I just want to go to a restaurant, become like a restaurant chef? Like, I was being pulled to, working like at a Michelin star restaurant, or like, what other avenues can I go, because this is hard and I don't know if I really want to be a chef. So it was a struggle between staying motivated to being a chef, and in that, taking so many leaps of faith, because it isn't a certain that I'm going to have this much money coming in this month, because we just don't know. Events have to come up, people have to call us and stuff like that. But with In-N-Out, I have guaranteed hours. I have great relationships with most of my coworkers. Like, I can move up in this company. This is a guarantee. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get benefits. What's motivated me? Well, I think Kenneth and I meeting since quarantine started, just meeting. So again, when he brought up the whiteboard, we were drawing out each individual thing. So the catering, the Dine in LA, and then what we wanted to do as a team. So definitely going over the future, going over ideas, coming up with dishes, definitely like kept me motivated. And there's times where so those things kept me motivated, definitely. I don't necessarily have a routine in place. I guess my routine on a day I work at In-N-Out is, go to In-N-Out, I go home, I change, and then, I come over here, and then I spend the rest of my day here, and then Kenneth and I are usually, again, talking about the future, events, different ideas, and stuff like that. But I think definitely, so that's keeping me motivated right now, with having events postponed and stuff. But what's also keeping me motivated is I'm coming up with ideas to come up with a food blogging website, and then as well as I've been interested the past maybe like 3 years about getting into food writing, but I think right now it's like really coming into like I'm really thinking about it, and really wanting to just like we were talking about taking a leap of faith and just doing it. Well, to start out, my creativity didn't start out like all crazy and cool and amazing. Like I wasn't coming with like foams and emulsions and curing something. Like it started out like small. Like I think definitely it grew through Kenneth challenging me and challenging us. Like what takes maybe like a day or 2 days to come up with the menu for Dine in LA. So that was definitely cool as well. But what were you asking? Like how do we
Like what your thought process is and like continuing to create things that are getting you toward your goal of becoming a great chef.
like what my thought process is?
Yeah, like your motivation being like I'm watching shows, I'm constantly like, so for me you are constantly like, bro, like I want to learn how to make breads, I want to learn how to make pasta from scratch. You're constantly asking questions like, why did you do that, you know what I mean? Like, or you're like, I want to learn how to make pastries and I want it to look like that. Like I don't want to just make an apple pie that just looks like a pie. Like I want it to look like this pastry chef. So like your thought process behind that.
I think my behind all those things that you mentioned, I just in my career I want my name to be out there. I want to be great. I don't want to do the normal things. I don't want to do like Kenneth was saying. I don't want to just do like an apple pie, but hey, like make like a little make a little apple pie in a ramekin and then have like a scoop of ice cream on top. Like yeah, that's cool, that's nice, but I don't want to do. I want our Dine in LA's to be transcending. Like I want our menus like from the travels that he goes on and stuff like that. Like I want people to have an experience that they've never experienced, but I also want the visuality of the food to be like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like how did you do that? I want them to be thinking like, how did they do that? Like, and stuff like that. And so when we go into our thought processes, like again, it takes like 1 to 2 days, or it can take like a full day, or sometimes it like again, like we'll be watching Chef's Table, Ugly Delicious, like all these different food shows on Netflix or something, and then we'll see that one thing and like say like this woman was like pickling something or this, and sort of like okay, like so we thought of pickled blueberries, and then so that pickled blueberries turned into like we could put this on top of like a saffron poached like salmon or something like that. And then that sprouts one idea and so we get the direction where we want to go. We're thinking, okay, we want to go towards a more southern, a deep-rooted southern menu, but not necessarily your traditional southern like chicken and waffles or shrimp and grits. Like we want to take like pig rillettes and pig sausage or something like that and transform it into something that you would have never, I guess, thought about or something like that. So,
Stephen, so what were the building blocks for you to start to venture out and doing this travel and working thing where now you got to the point where you're going to 7 countries in a year?
Yeah, I think my exposure to and first and foremost, my first exposure to that to international travel stemmed from going to South Korea when I was 17 at the time. I turned 18 in South Korea.
Wow.
A program through my high school called time, Teen International Media Exchange, which I think in hindsight determined how I travel, because there we spent 3 weeks in South Korea with a home and created a short film.
That's dope. Okay.
And making that leap of faith back then at 17, not knowing who you are, what you want to be. You know, I was in a class that I enjoyed. It was a film production class. And our teacher said, hey, I'm putting this program together. You should join. And we had there's a whole criteria of doing it. So I had a little bit of confidence in myself, had a little bit of push from my teacher to get involved, because it was something I was interested in. And made that leap and was able to go. And it kind of informed how I travel. So now I travel for an extended amount of time. It's not 1 or 2 days. It's usually 1 or 2 weeks.
At least.
The second major trip that I took was when I made a leap of faith to go to Milan, Italy for 3 months and pursue fashion photography. And the background, I'm not sure if you know this story, is I was assisting a photographer in college, and he told me, if you really want to do fashion, you need to go to Europe and shoot fashion. It's where the fashion houses are. And that's where you're going to find interesting models, and you're going to have a creative book that's going to extend past what you can get in LA. Wow. And even New York. So that small seed, which I don't even know he knows this.
Crazy.
He planted it in me because he did it in his heyday. So I saw that he's done it, and it intrigued me so much that I started preparing for it, not even knowing how I was going to do it. It seemed like a wishful dream way in the future, but I wrote it down. I had it down, like I want to travel to Milan and shoot high fashion.
That's awesome.
So I was able to do it. The building blocks of the steps to get there started with having faith, having confidence within myself, and having a goal. Throughout that process, mentioning it to family and friends. They've never been in those situations. My family never traveled outside the United States. So it was even my dad, and his wife have never traveled at that time. Now since then they have. So it was a foreign idea, and quitting a job that was safe, where you had, fresh out of college, recessions behind us, 3 years later, and now you're quitting and going to Europe on a wishful dream. You don't know a soul. You don't speak the language. You hit a lot of boundaries, but those boundaries, when you overcome them, define you. So it informed how I travel now, and it informed how I can go to 7 countries in 1 year and hop from season to season. The year prior to that, I went to 3 countries, jumped from London Fashion Week to Milan Fashion Week again for the second time, to Paris Fashion Week, and meeting outstanding people, and growing and learning and experiencing, and that lends me to comfort zones. It was uncomfortable for me to be in those situations and being by myself.
Crazy, yeah.
Being a solo traveler and just jumping and leaping on your own dime. That's investing in yourself. The process at home, investing in myself, really stemmed from knowing what I wanted to be and knowing that no one was going to hand me opportunities. I had to create the opportunities. So also on that list, I said, I want to shoot for fashion magazines. I want to shoot models overseas.
Yeah.
But there's no opportunities where to say, hey, we'll fly you out this way. Hey, we'll do this. So I was like, I'll do it myself. And I'm not getting into magazines and getting published the way I want. I'll create my own magazine.
Yeah.
And I created my own magazine really as a promotion piece to show people, not really to distribute and then get people to pay for it. It was just a way of just saying like, hey, this is my book. It's a creative way of showing your portfolio.
For sure, got one too.
Exactly. So, all these limitations that you see, like, I want to be a published photographer. I want to travel and shoot. I stopped waiting for people to give me that handout and push myself. And there was a learning curve. I'm doing that. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I just stepped out day one.
Yeah.
Like I was at home doing the hard work, which is studying, research, developing my craft, really involving myself in the field of work to see how it's done,
Mm-hmm.
and then jump and then learn throughout that process as you're
Yeah.
jumping and moving.
Yeah.
And I think today in this current place that we're in terms of quarantine, I think building those building blocks of studying so you can prepare for the future and what that looks like, and uncertainty is where you grow the most.
Mhm.
So there's uncertainty right now, but you can grow the most if you act out of uncertainty. Is when you
Mhm.
act within certainty, you stay in your comfort zone in a sense. It's
For
another
sure.
way of being in your comfort zone.
For sure.
So I want to extend the question to you guys, like in terms of comfort zones. Have you what do you do to get yourself out of comfort zone? And during this time of quarantine and being stuck in uncertainty, how do you relate to that?
For sure, for sure. I would say for me, definitely been uncomfortable. I think my entire process or journey as a chef has always been uncomfortable. Like I said, I got married at 21 years old. We were broke. We struggled. That would be a whole nother episode of this podcast if I was to talk about my struggle at that time. But the thought of needing to make this work has always been the pushing force behind me being uncomfortable or getting out of that comfortable place. I'm still uncomfortable speaking in front of people when I do Dine in LA. I'm still uncomfortable in the process of doing Dine in LA. I talk to Seppi all the time, like, bro, I don't know if anybody's gonna show up. Everybody always ends up showing up, but it's always a risk. You know what I mean? Especially with Dine in LA. I mean, people buy their ticket on the last minute. You know what I mean?
Right.
Going out to dinner isn't necessarily something that you plan weeks or a month in advance. You know what I mean? Most people decide where they're going out to dinner a few hours before. So, of course, we have people that are doing better than that, but they're still not necessarily to make that firm commitment super far in advance. So I'm always uncomfortable. Last time we did a Dine in LA, I actually, for the first time, had to pay out of pocket up front renting a place. Other times that I've rented other places out, they've taken a portion out of my proceeds. This time it was like, no, I'm completely vesting into that. That was super uncomfortable. Thank God people actually showed up. But it's always nervous to see, are people actually going to show up? So I think this has to work. And even you were talking earlier and you said something that was so great, like as far as in having somebody that's you're mentoring, right? Keeping you to your word. When I first started being uncomfortable, it was like, okay, I got a wife, I got to make sure this works, I got loans, all this stuff. But now that I'm in a place where I have some consistent work and I get consistent gigs and I have a independent contracting thing over here that I can continue to do, whatever, I can become comfortable in that.
Right.
My discomfort is this dude, because I have somebody watching me and now somebody that is also like trusted me to continue, and now his growth in this company now depends on the faith that he's placed in me continuing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like now it's like I can't let up. I have to keep pushing it. So I think having people spur you on and help you accountable helps keep me out of my comfort zone. That's something that's for sure something that breaks my comfort. I would pass that question over to Seppi about comfort.
Yes. So in my mind, when we were coming back from our BMW trip, I'm like, so me, I like to relax, and Kenneth definitely likes to relax too, but Kenneth definitely gets me out of my comfort zone when he's like, no, we gotta do this, we gotta get ready, we have to be ready, so when quarantine ends, we're far ahead of the game. And so my thinking was, cool, I might get a break when I get back. I'm like thinking so my wife is working at home. I'm like, this is great. I get to spend time with my dog, my wife, and I get to do, play some video games or something like that. And so I was definitely getting into my comfort zone. So then, Kenneth and I meet up this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we met up this week. We met up on Tuesday, and so then like we just hit the ground running, and I'm like, and I'm feeling like you just kind of ruined like this relaxing. I thought I guess that we were gonna not necessarily relax, but not do so much. And he's like, okay, so we got to think of ideas. What are we gonna cook today? I'm like, I wasn't prepared to come and cook today. I was just preparing for, I don't know, like watch Avengers all day with you or something like that. So Kenneth has definitely gotten me out of this mindset of, no, yes, we're quarantined, but we still got to do work. So now I'm coming in here with the mindset of, okay, we got a podcast going for the first time, so now we got to be thinking about ideas. How do we push this? How do we make this? What's the purpose of this kind of thing? And then we're also thinking about dishes we're gonna make like later on in the week. Like what these are the ingredients available to you. Now I'm thinking, okay, what can I make kind of thing. And then we're also thinking about our goals. Like we want to come out with a logo. We want to make new chef jackets. And then also we have possible upcoming opportunities. So we're also talking about that. And then in and out, like before. So to be able to give Kenneth my time and my availability, I only work about maybe 10 to 15 hours at In and Out a week. And now it's like I'm going to be working like about 30 hours a week now for maybe the next 2 months. So now it's like I was so used to only working 3 days at In and Out. Now I'm working like 5 days at In and Out, and I'm also coming over here with Kenneth. So now it's like this whole relaxing thing is like comfort thing. There's no coming back. Like I gotta do my job as a husband. And I gotta work and provide for my family, and then I also have a commitment to Kenneth. So I also have to be here after work and again come up with ideas and stuff like that. So all in all, Kenneth is definitely the one person that pushes me out of my comfort zone, because he gets my mind back into I guess work mode and out of La La Land and relaxing land and stuff like that. And he's like, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, it's very comfortable to get into our own La La Lands,
Mm-hmm.
and have a motivating figure or motivating friends and family members. That's a plus for sure, because for me personally, it's super easy to let up off the gas, because when you have accountability, you have people in your corner that's rooting you on, that's calling you on your bluff, like, hey, you said you were doing this,
you were about that life.
yeah, like it don't look like you about that life, like you said you was interested in like a YouTube channel, like here's the opportunity, and then like me like hesitating, like no, like you got to put the rubber to the road at that point, so
Sure.
I'm excited what this opportunity can bring in terms of the show and YouTube and what it looks like. This is outside my comfort zone, by the way.
Way outside my comfort zone, yeah.
I'm usually behind the lens, not in front of the lens.
Yeah.
Like so, being in front of the camera and speaking my own truth is uncomfortable. But to spread the awareness to people, to motivate people, maybe to show people like, hey, during this time you can act on your motivations. You can act not in fear, but in creation.
For sure.
So.
For sure. I agree with that. And then just piggybacking on like what this is like all about and like what we're trying to do, like for me, so much about it is like you said, inspiring people and to know like we're just regular people. You know what I mean? We're not rich, but God has given us some amazing opportunities, and we just happen to be the people crazy enough to take Him up on it. You know what I mean? We're like, hey, I can do that. I will never forget, and I'll plug this in real quick. There was a time my wife and I were staying at this apartment, and it was horrible, and there was a lot of issues with it. And I remember, and this is just a life lesson, but I remember hearing God tell me one day, I told you you can move. And I was like, I don't have any money. He was like, I didn't ask you that. I told you you can move. And so we moved, and life changed. And that took an incredible leap of faith. We moved with not enough money to move to where we were moving to, and eventually the money came after we moved. It didn't. We didn't wait for the money to come. We moved, and then the money came. And so I think that that's the same thing with what we're doing here. You know, we're not waiting for somebody to pick us up for a television show. It's like we picked up the camera. It's like, Steven, you got a camera. Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. I also want people to be able to see it's like behind the scenes. Like, eventually when we're out of here, I want people to be able to go behind the scenes with you into Fashion Week and see. I still to this day, I was with you in Miami, happenstantially, you know, and we're like, Steven, we want to get together and have dinner. We're like, hey, I'm getting out of this fashion shoot at 10 o'clock. I'm like, Steven, I'm usually asleep by 10 o'clock. I'll wait for you, you know. But like, you know, you had even invited us to a show for whatever reason. We were there with Kara's godparents and we weren't able to go. But I'm so interested in your world, you know what I mean? And to be able to see that and to be able to see, like you said, you were the only person of color in Europe at this fashion week. Like, that's amazing to me. That's fascinating. I don't think that people get to see those behind the scene moments. I would love to show, Seppi and I have talked for years about like just having a camera on so that like we watch TV and we watch chefs come up like they're like, oh, we need to come up with this dish for this whatever event. And it's like, you'll see people in the car for like maybe 2 minutes and they're like, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And all of a sudden they have they have a dish. And I'm like, that's not the truth. Right. You know, these things, like me and Seppi will sit here for hours, you know what I mean? Conceptualizing dishes, you know what I mean? And I would like people to be able to see those behind the scene things. Like, even now in quarantine, like, I love for people to see what you're working on. I would love to be able to, as once again, talking about like, just men encouraging each other, motivating each other, keeping each other accountable. Like, Steven, you need some help, you know, on your project. Or you being able to come over here for like, what y'all cooking? Let's get this on camera, you know what I mean? Like, all of these things to be able to see what these behind the scenes situations look like, you know, being able to take people with us on these trips via the camera to be able to expose people. Because one thing that you said, is that this happened in high school where someone took you, right? They took you to South Korea. I had the same experience where somebody took me, NAACP, as I mentioned earlier. They took me to New Orleans. They took me to Texas. They took me to Miami. They took me to Sacramento. Like, all of these things where somebody actually said, we're not just going to tell you about how to do it. We're going to physically take you and take you with us. I took Seppi with me, you know what I mean? Like, okay, Seppi, you ready to go to Portland? Are you ready to go to Colorado? Are you ready to go to Seattle? Like, all these things. So I think people giving opportunities through exposing, or people exposing people to culture through opportunities is huge for me. And so I want to give people those opportunities via this lens. You know what I mean? To see to see the potential of it, you know. I think we see a lot of videos of people being like, oh, this is how you can stay someplace cheap, whatever, but they're not seeing necessarily the behind the scenes of people working and doing these things. So I think that it's a different field, I think, you know, and there's not a lot of exposure to it. And so I'm excited about what we can do and what can come out of this. I think I'm just excited about what can come out of all of this, you know. I think it's super cool. I think it's super dope. I would love people to just see the behind the scenes, whether it's behind the scenes of an actual event or behind the scenes in the kitchen, behind the scenes traveling. Somebody may be even motivated to come with us, you know, on one of these trips that we're opening up to people, because we just want people to be able to have these experiences. Good people. All the fools can stay at home. You know, good people. We want to be able to open up those opportunities. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement. I mean, to motivate people through the lens, like you said, and keep them accountable and show them the steps that we take and the falls that we take, in a sense, and how we get back up. Hopefully that's a learning for somebody who's out there who hasn't experienced it. I can offer my life experiences and the experiences that I'm going to continue to have. And maybe that informs you or enlightens you to pursue your own goals and dreams. I'd love to see like a channel that that benefits in those type of ways, especially during these harsh times of uncertainty and not knowing what's next, and just seeing another creative doing it and jumping out and saying you can do this too, and I'm going to show you my steps, and maybe your steps is a little bit different in a different field, but they're all moving forward, and they're all taking like increment steps forward, and that's progress.
And there's progress. So that is progress. I love it.
Yeah, I think these two gentlemen would also agree that. So what I've gained from this, from us talking about what we've talked about today in this podcast, is that that we need community, and that community gets us through uncertainty, and community gets us through trials and tribulations where we need to grow, and also in the growth, community comes. So I think it's for anybody who listens to this, like, community is so important, because again, like you guys were talking about, accountability keeps you accountable to the goals and the dreams that you want to pursue, but as well as lending a helping hand when you don't know what you want to do or you don't understand. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Perfect. We got to come up with a name though.
Yes.
He was thinking Creators Collective.
That is good. There was something else in as we were talking. It was very close to that. It was like creatives. But yeah, I do love that. But there was, I don't know if it was that or if it was something else, but it was something in our conversation. I was like, ooh, that could be a name. But watch it be that, you know. But yeah, I like that name too.
Creative Collective.
Creators Collective with the K, or Creators with the C.
Yeah.